This is the return of the Republic. And this is the War Room with Roger Stone.
By most accounts, almost all of the people protesting against the hateful bigots, the Nazis and Klansmen in Charlottesville, were peaceful.
You know, they show up in the helmets and the black masks, and they've got clubs and they've got everything. Antifa!
The event had been largely peaceful until black-clad anarchists stormed into the area.
A large group dressed in black with their faces covered, often the trademark of Antifa, anti-fascist leftists, rushed into the park by scaling the barricades.
The White House will now have to respond to a petition to formally classify Antifa as a terrorist organization.
It is quote-unquote liberal or leftist media that is inciting a civil war and trying to start a coup against our president, our elected president, Donald Trump. George Soros is behind a lot of that, and Antifa is behind a lot of the violence.
What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt? Let me ask you this. What about the fact that they came charging with clubs in their hands, swinging clubs? Do they have any problem? I think they do.
They are just beating people, ganging up, men and women, ganging up on lone individuals and just beating them in a wanton, savage, brown shirt Nazi operation.
Prior to the unrest, police banned sticks, masks, and any other potential weapons. However, dozens of anti-fascist protesters broke those rules, it appears.
One grouping that is widely present is the folks who call themselves Antifa. Some of them also would call themselves the Black Bloc. People with masks over their faces, helmets, goggles. They're here for a fight.
I think we should classify them as a gang. You know, they come dressed in uniforms, they have weapons, they're almost a militia.
A mob chased him for a block and a half, took his flag, Trump hat, and glasses, and spat all over him.
You know, I'm okay with people making white supremacists feel unwelcome.
Take to the streets November 4th and do not stop. We f***ing hate Trump.
You.
Fuck you. But we f***ing hate Trump.
Donald Trump has let the racists, the Klansmen, the Nazis, the misogynists, and put them in the White House. It is up to us to stop them.
We demand an end to the Trump-Pence regime, and we demand real justice.
An Antifa organization is offering a training manual with tips to help their members carry out a revolution.
Antifa was able to get themselves going, and when they showed up, they started truly an all-out war on innocent people.
The group's website has a variety of resources for its members to refer to, including an online magazine entitled The Mini Manual of the Urban Guerrilla. Within this 36-page document are sections entitled Sabotage, Kidnapping, and Executions, with detailed instructions on how each of these should be carried out.
November 4th it begins, the Trump-Pence regime must go.
And people are not going to sit back and allow for this to continue. People that are there right now that are putting forward a vehicle for people to act right now. November 4th is when millions of people take to the streets and stay in the streets until this Trump-Pence regime is driven from power. And all these people that are saying run them over, what you're trying to get rid of protectedly First Amendment right.
November 4th.
Welcome back. You're in the War Room, and we're going to be taking some of your calls a little later in the program. That number, 888-201-2244. I'm joined by my colleague, Owen Schroyer. Now, I know Jake Tapper is very, very upset. You see, word has gotten back to him that he's being dropped from my international best dressed list for this year, and he's being replaced by Owen Schroyer. Wow. Yes, Jake, I know it's a crushing blow, but I've had it with your...
Don't mention blow around Jake.
Good point. I've had it with your antics, your propaganda, I remember the days when you were once a journalist, but they're on to you, Jake. People know that virtually nothing you say can be believed, and just in terms of raw numbers, there's far more Americans watching us here at InfoWars than watching your pap. Owen?
Well, it's actually amazing, Roger. I know that you've actually met a lot of these people. I've met Jake Tapper, Don Lemon. When you actually meet these fake news talking heads. It's actually incredible. I mean, most of them are pretty much just total cucks. They can't talk to you. They can't handle a real conversation. They have 3 or 4 people that are basically their handlers, running them around, steering them which way to go. I actually give Van Jones credit. I mean, I disagree with just about all of his politics, but Van Jones at least seems like a real guy. He doesn't have a bunch of carriers that carry him around, and he actually speaks his mind, I feel like. Again, I completely disagree with almost everything he says, but I think he's actually a real guy, unlike a Jake Tapper, who's a total fop.
Well, I ran into Van Jones coming out of a studio. He was coming in just the other day. He asked for a selfie. It was very pleasant. We don't agree. And I said, Van, I will give your regards to your cousin, Alex. So let's roll this CBS hit piece that they put up the other day. You see, between the release of the JFK documents, my outlining a plan for a special prosecutor to expose Uranium One and derail the Mueller takedown of Manafort and Trump, this is what we got from CBS.
By most accounts, almost all of the people protesting.
Now, there's no soundtrack on this. It is a hit piece put together recently to try, I guess, to discredit me in an effort to try to limit my availability, or I should say my access to social media. Today, I learned, for example, that the official feed for the Netflix documentary, Get Me Roger Stone, has also been suspended on Twitter. Yesterday, I met with a number of high-level, the very best telecommunications lawyers in the country to talk about a legal takedown of Twitter. You see, we are going to end the censorship, and we are going to have them ultimately regulated like a utility. There you see on CBS, I am straightening out for Charlie Rose the falsehood that I was trafficking with a Russian hacker named Guccifer 2.0. He turns out is neither a hacker nor is he a Russian. But that's the kind of propaganda piece you see coming from the mainstream media. Owen, they're on the run. They know we're exposing them, and therefore they have to cut us off. That's the thing about today's left. They're not like the liberals of the 60s and 70s. Those folks wanted civil debate. They would argue with you on the merits, on the issues. These people, oh, we need to shut Owen Schroyer up. Just shut up, because they can't beat us in honest debate.
And that's a sign of victory. That is honestly what this is. When you see us getting censored on all of these social media platforms, from YouTube, the algorithms blocking us from showing up first on Google, when they suspend Roger Stone's Twitter account for tweeting nothing but the ugly truth. Unfortunately for Don Lemon, it's just the ugly truth. But he brags about that on a New Year's broadcast, but we don't need to go down that path. But it ultimately is a sign of victory. They cannot beat us in a battle of wits. They cannot beat us in a battle of ideas. They cannot beat us in a battle of intellect. So because they can't actually win in the battlefield for ideas and for liberty, they just shut you up. We can't beat Roger Stone, so let's just shut him down.
Yeah, I don't think it will work. Those who want to follow my exploits on Twitter can do so at the InfoWars Twitter feed or at the Stone Cold Truth Twitter feed, where my followers pretty well chronicle what I am up to. You know, we kid a lot about our clothing here on the War Room because Owen and I are both clothes horse. We understand the concept of look good, feel good. But the media seems to be obsessed now with the extraordinary spending habits of Paul Manafort. We learned from today's New York Times, lifting it from the Mueller indictment, that Manafort spent $1.3 million on his clothing and spent $500,000 at one unnamed men's store in Beverly Hills, California alone. Now, I've known Manafort a long time. And his taste runs to custom Italian suits with a more padded shoulder, a higher armhole, more closely fitted to the body. Not necessarily the right cut for a middle-aged man of some proportions. Just because Manafort's clothes were expensive does not mean that they particularly fit well. But to each his own. He always has had and has impeccable taste on his collection of shirts and ties. The reason for this onslaught against his sartorial budget, of course, is to create resentment of Manafort's legally gained wealth. Let's be very clear. They keep talking about his lobbying for Ukraine. He did not lobby for Ukraine. He ran political campaigns in Ukraine, regulated by the laws in that country. That is a perfectly legal endeavor, which means the money that he's accused of moving around Europe is not dirty money to begin with, and therefore moving it around cannot be constituted as money laundering. I've talked to some of the very best white-collar attorneys in the country in the last 48 hours. The case against Manafort is a weak one. They'll have a hard time winning a conviction. And as you know, Owen, none of it relates to Russia. So now this guy, Papadopoulos, pops up. I've never heard of him, and I was in pretty extensive touch with the Trump campaign. He has no authority. He didn't even have a security entrance card for the headquarters. He was never on the payroll. He's a volunteer. But they're going to claim that his bombarding Trump campaign officials with requests to meet with high-level Russians constitutes the collusion, the coordination they've been looking for. I don't think that dog will hunt.
Well, Roger, it's strange that this is apparently there's two more sealed indictments. This is the first in the round. But usually with these type of cases, what they'll do is they'll bring out the biggest charges they have first in order to create some fear in the opposition. If this is the biggest charge they got nothing. Of course, we already know that they had nothing. But what's interesting about Papadopoulos, Roger, if my timeline is accurate here, he actually worked more for the deep state as an undercover operative than he did the Trump campaign.
It appears that way. First of all, he goes to a long succession of neocon think tanks. Then suddenly he's in bed with the Russians. So he's at the Jamestown Institute. Then he's at the Hudson Institute. These are virulently anti-Russian, pro-neocon fronts. And then suddenly overnight, he's the one advocating meetings with the Russians. I think I can shed light on these two new sealed indictments. They're going to indict Paul Manafort's driver for double parking, and they're nailing his housekeeper.
All right, welcome back to the War Room, guys. I was trying to tell you that we need to get Roger Stone's earpiece plugged in. That's why we were having that confusion. But welcome back to the War Room. Owen Schroyer, Roger Stone with you. We were just responding to the Twitter censors and how they want to block Roger, and it's really just a victory. But Roger, I don't know if you wanted to get into this now, but you handed me this document basically breaking down what appears to be LBJ associated with the KKK.
Yeah, I mentioned this on the Alex Jones Show, an extraordinary document which comes out of the classified documents that President Donald Trump ordered released, in which we learn that a source tells the government that the original Knights of the Ku Klux Klan of Texas have produced documentary proof that President Lyndon Johnson was formerly a member of the Klan in Texas prior to his days in the U.S. House of Representatives. What's particularly interesting is a stamp on this document that shows that a copy was sent to Clyde Tolson, who is the top assistant deputy director to J. Edgar Hoover. Now you see why they wanted this information classified. Lyndon Baines Johnson, like Robert Byrd, a member of the virulently anti-black and almost all Democrat Ku Klux Klan.
Started by the Democrats, obviously. People make the joke the last time we saw the Democrats this upset as they are with Trump was when people took their slaves away, so they formed the KKK. That's a bit of history that people don't really want to talk about. But, Roger, you know what's amazing to me about the JFK files being released? We got a lot of bombshells in these files. The government putting implants in the media, the government staging terror attacks, the government lying about what happened to JFK. But, you know, perhaps the biggest bombshell is the fact that it's now admitting that Hitler escaped from Nazi Germany to South America. So are they editing the textbooks that our children are reading? No. Now, what about all the people that go to the streets and claim that Trump is Hitler? Trump is Hitler. Trump is a Nazi. Silence from them the fact that the government lied about Hitler and the fact he was able to live and escape to South America. Silence from all the leftists that compared Trump to Hitler, but aren't even bothered by the fact our government lied about Hitler and it was Trump that has now exposed that and made that public. How come they ignore that, Roger?
I'm not familiar with that disclosure, Owen. Where did you see that?
So it's in multiple Hoover letters from a while ago, but in the JFK, here you go. Here's the story from Infowars.com. It basically says that multiple countries in South America, Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, etc., were working with officials from the Nazi regime, and the U.S. had intelligence that Hitler had indeed escaped to South America and essentially set himself up a life in Argentina. And we just had 2 months ago a trove of Nazi artifacts found in Argentina. So again, it just corroborates what we already knew, which was then released in the JFK files. So it's just amazing that all of this stuff gets released from Trump. He's the one that says he wants transparency. He actually is the most transparent president in my lifetime. I'm sure that you could perhaps say the same, maybe since JFK, or even more transparent, and they don't even appreciate it. They don't even care. Yeah, there's the story. Hidden trove of Nazi artifacts found in Argentina, and then the JFK papers just, again, confirm what we already suspected. Hitler escaped to South America.
You know, Owen, I think the larger question here is, why has the deep state, why are the intelligence agencies moving so aggressively to cover up things that, let's face it, happened 50, 60, 70 years ago? Here's the answer, I believe. Because it shows the same tactics and the same MO today as then. The lying, the fabricating, the hiding, the covering up, the leaking.
The fake media.
The infiltration of the media. The things that they did then are the same exact things that they're doing now. And that is, in my opinion, what it is they don't want the American people to know. The tactics being used on JFK are the same tactics being used on Donald Trump. So far, that has been absent murder.
Well, they'd love to go there. You know that.
There's no question about it. I pray for the president's safety and the safety of his family every single night, because he is such a threat to the established order. He is such a threat to the two-party duopoly that has run this country into the ground. That's why they are so hysterical. He's mentally unbalanced. He's crazy. No, it's you that you're projecting. It is them that they are upset about. And then, as I indicated on the Alex Jones show, when these political insiders, someone who was just with Jeb Bush, someone who was just with a major Republican U.S. senator, and they tell you calmly, oh, don't worry about Trump. He'll be gone by December. And then you see these newspaper ads and the Tom Steyer financed television ads whipping people into a hysteria. These are related incidents. The political establishment is working with Soros and the rabble in the streets for what Alex Jones, the first guy I know, has called it, November 4th uprising. This is coming, folks. Make no doubt whatsoever about it. Alex Jones has called this. Here's further proof, a multi-$1,000 ad in the New York Times. The counter-revolution is coming, and we're going to have to beat it back. We're going to have no choice.
We'll find out who paid for that advertisement. Obviously, we can all just assume it was George Soros, but I'm sure that we'll get to the bottom of that. Maybe the New York Times will release that, maybe not. They've already been exposed by Project Veritas. But
what I did learn in my trip to Washington is that the military, the police, the security services, they're taking this threat very carefully. So Antifa may be biting off more than they can chew. Make no mistake about it. The rank and file law enforcement officers in this country, men and women who are patriots, they will rise to the occasion if there's an illegitimate attempt to seize power on November 4th.
You know, speaking of political ads, right before we get to this break here, remember the political ad that came out maybe like 72 hours ago now, where it was a Democrat paid-for ad depicting the white male as the terrorist trying to run down the kids in the streets in his truck? You remember that? Less than 48 hours after that Democrat paid-for ad depicting the white male as a terrorist airs, a Muslim terrorist actually rents a truck and murders 8 people in New York City. Do you think the Democrats will retract that ad? Do you think maybe the Democrats gave the guy the idea? What about that? Anybody ever thought of that? I don't think the Democrats are going to apologize for this one, Roger.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
Well, we'll be right back. Again, it was Senator Chuck Schumer's legislation that led to this terrorist being in the country. We'll be right back with more from Roger Stone. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to the War Room. I'm Roger Stone with my colleague Owen Schroyer, and we're going to go to the phones because the InfoWarriors have been waiting a while. Nick in Detroit, what's on your mind, Nick?
What you do for the American people.
Go ahead and start from the top, Nick.
Hi, Roger. Hi, Owen. I just wanted to talk to you about Alex. Alex needs to talk to his friend Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan had Tom DeLonge on the other day, talking about full disclosure for alien life, and Tom DeLonge was in the Podesta emails from WikiLeaks. John Podesta is a huge UFO researcher and something scary to think about. So,
very interesting. Well, I am not all that familiar with all of Mr. Podesta's emails, and let me say again for the record, I had no advance notice that they would be hacked and released. When I said that John Podesta's time in the barrel would come, it's because I had read the Panama Papers in January of 2016, and they outlined the shady business dealings with the oligarchs around Vladimir Putin. There's the bank deal, the gas deal, and of course now most famous, the uranium deal. The mainstream media was absolutely right, Owen. There was a major party candidate nominated by one of our 2 political parties who was in bed with Vladimir Putin. The problem is it wasn't Donald Trump. It was Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, and again, Paul Manafort is somebody that was not even endeared by the Russians. He didn't really even have a good relationship with the Russians because of his work in Ukraine, that you could say kind of, was a slight to Russia.
Well, he pushed Viktor Yanukovych, the candidate of a Democratic political party that elected him, to join the European Union, which was exactly antithetical to what Vladimir Putin wanted. Yeah. Putin happens to hate Paul Manafort. There's the irony.
Yeah, and just to address what he was saying about Tom DeLonge on the Rogan podcast, I've had multiple people mention this to me. I've not listened to that podcast, but I don't know. Maybe if Alex is listening and he wants to reach out to Joe and try to get Tom on, it could be certainly could be an interesting interview.
For phone calls, 888-201-2244. Here is your opportunity. If you have a question for Owen or for myself, we'll take all comers. Patty in New York, what do you have to say for us today, Patty?
God bless you, Roger Stone.
Thank you.
And Alex Jones and Owen, of course. But, of course, the President of the United States, my prayers are always with him. I just wanted you to know that I canceled cable because of Don Lemon and his smugness and his arrogance. That one's for you, Roger.
Well, I appreciate that. I saw him on recently, and he was saying that, a lot of people here at CNN criticize the president, but I'm the one the president's obsessed with. When I criticize the president, it really bothers him. I've talked to the president. He only vaguely knows who Don Lemon is. He's not obsessed with him in any way. He barely knows who the fellow is. So nice try, Don. But the president of the United States is not lying awake at night worrying about what you think, and certainly not about what you're wearing.
Yeah.
Patty, I'm sorry I cut you off there. Do you have a question? Or do you have something else to say?
I just said that we all need to support the InfoWar and InfoWars, and I purchased Alexa Pure and Z Shield, and I'm waiting on my order for Silver Bullet and Winter Sun and DNA Force, and I'm getting the T-shirt that Millie wears. I don't want to say it wrong. Moan Labe.
Yes.
Moan Labe, yes.
Excellent.
Yes,
Well, God bless you,
and,
Patty. Thank you so much. And
okay.
I can hear your little friend barking there in the background. And
He
we're
won't stop. I'm sorry.
No,
And the
that's
pin
great.
that
We're
Owen wears.
dog lovers here at InfoWars. I
Okay.
assure you,
All right, that's
we are.
Gus. Gus won't mind his business.
Thank you so much for your
right.
call.
Gus is listening to the right broadcast, though. You got to give the credit to Gus there.
No question.
Probably smarter than Don Lemon, too.
The info dogs, as we call them. I have two my new puppies, Mimi and Pee-wee 2.0. I want to point out right now, he is not a Russian agent.
Well, wait, if I'm recalling correct, you've actually your pets have actually been attacked by the left.
No, there's no question. I posted a picture of
your own pets.
I posted a picture on Twitter of my two new puppies, Yorkshire Terriers, who are just incredibly lovable and a new part of the Stone family. And then some whack job called for them to be killed. I checked. That person is still allowed to tweet. They're not suspended.
Oh, okay.
How strange.
Yeah, that is strange, isn't it?
So let's see what we've got on the board here. Ty in Ohio, the state that is, of course, the cornerstone of Donald Trump's historic political victory. Ty, what's on your mind?
How you doing today, Mr. Stone?
Excellent.
Hey, I was just wanting to know if you guys have heard anything. We here in Ohio, we've been having new media outlet, and they pretty much are pretty radical. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about that yet.
Well, I'm sorry. What did you say? You're having new media? What?
It's pretty much like radicalized.
Are you talking about local television media? Can you be more specific?
It's pretty much in the Dayton area, from where I've been seeing it.
So you're talking about local Dayton media becoming radical leftists?
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
When I first moved up here from Kentucky, it wasn't bad at all. But I can't even watch news up here anymore. It's getting terrible.
You know,
that would definitely be something to check into.
I'd like to look into that. You know, one of the things that's amazing to me is that Ohio has really been the linchpin for the election of presidents, and Mitt Romney and John McCain struggled mightily, spent hundreds of millions of dollars to try to win there, and they both fell short. Donald Trump, I can tell you, was never less than 5 points ahead in Ohio, and despite the fact that the Republican machine under Governor John Kasich was working overdrive against him, he handily carried the state. Ohio, in all honesty, in our calculations, was never in doubt. So perhaps that's why they are moving a more radicalized media there in preparation for 2020. Just speculation on my part.
And I would imagine if that's happening in Dayton, it's probably happening in Cleveland, probably happening in Cincinnati. You know, those are the big voter bases that they need to vote Democrat. That's what they rely on, the inner cities. That's how they rely on winning these elections. They know that everybody outside the inner city is at least not radical left. At least they're fair-minded, so they won't go totally left. So they rely on those big city, inner city votes.
Another call from the Buckeye State, Kathleen from Ohio. Kathleen, what's on your mind today for the War Room?
Yes. Hello, Roger. Hello, Owen. I just wanted to mention the moment that you announced that Twitter had suspended your account for 3 hours and 22 minutes, I immediately thought of the Skull and Bones number, 322.
Yes,
I don't think that's a mistake.
You're the second person to point that out to me. Look, I
thought I was the first.
No, you were the second, but it's a legitimate point, and I'm glad you brought it up because I hadn't forgotten to do so. Look, I think that I was very specifically suspended because the Manafort indictment was already in the works. It's outrageous, by the way, that the indictment itself leaked. You notice CNN knew that there were sealed indictments and they hyped them all weekend. When I spoke to Paul Manafort on Saturday afternoon, he literally knew nothing of this. So it was a terror tactic used by Mr. Mueller, leaking a big part of their dirty tricks arsenal. Here on The War Room, and we'll be right back.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're able to get the best guests and the most hardcore information and also be live 10 hours a day now. That's right, 10 hours a day. InfoWars is live. That's because you support us at InfoWarsStore.com. So we want you to go to InfoWarsStore.com and not just take advantage of our products, but specifically take advantage of our specials. We offer great specials at great discounts because we want you to try our products, share them with family and friends, give them out as gifts, and we believe you'll be a return customer once you try these products. 30% off Super Male Vitality, 50% off Brain Force Plus. We've got back in stock DNA Force. This is 25% off. We get it back in stock, and then we immediately discount it. That's just how we roll at InfoWarsStore.com. That is a powerful supplement. We'll actually have some news on just how powerful DNA Force is. Biome Defense, also 25% off. How about Winter Sun? Vitamin D, you don't get as much sun in the winter. You're getting bundled up. The sun is covered by clouds. You need that vitamin D. It's essential to your health. So we've got the solution at InfoWarsStore.com. Winter Sun Vitamin D, currently 50% off. So again, a seasonal supplement where sales increase. We give it to you 50% off. This is a 4.9 star review, very popular product, and we still bring it to you at 50% off. So go to InfoWarsStore.com, try the products, and take advantage of our great specials, 50% off Winter Sun. Well, CNN is ISIS and CNN is fake news, and yesterday they were not even able to report from the scene of the terror attack, well, because people called them out for what they really are.
I'll play the clip in just a moment. A great American happened to stumble across a live CNN shoot in Manhattan yesterday and did his duty to God and his country to warn the people who, for some reason, happened to be watching CNN about what it was that they were actually seeing.
I think when the Charlie Hebdo attacks, if memory serves me, there were some. In some of the attacks in Europe that we've seen, there have been that.
I was just going to say that if he did make contact with ISIS, they will have instructed him not to just leave a note.
You really got to hand it to Anderson Cooper. He's a pretty good actor. He didn't even break character while the guy was just 2 feet away from him, yelling that CNN was fake news. Of course, they're on the scene where yesterday another Muslim immigrant did, well, you know what. And many are wondering if perhaps this driver was inspired by this Democrat campaign ad, which has recently gone viral, which has even been covered on all the major media outlets because it's so despicable, which depicts a Republican candidate's fan, Ed Gillespie. He's the Republican candidate. It depicts one of his fans driving a big pickup truck and running down a bunch of minority children. Notice the Confederate flag waving on the back of the truck, trying to evoke the horrific tragedy in Charlottesville a few months ago. And it certainly is reasonable to suspect that perhaps this perpetrator had seen this ad and then decided to go and carry out exactly that kind of an attack. Even the far left waste of paper, the Washington Post, the Washington Compost, was disgusted by the ad. It says an ad that has no place in the Virginia governor's race. Oh, wait, what's this? Political Action Committee pulls controversial Virginia governor ad. We knew our ad would ruffle feathers, they said in a statement. We held up a mirror to the Republican Party, and they don't like what they see. We have decided to pull our ad at this time, said Crystal Ball J. Alex, president of the Latino Victory Fund. Given the recent events, of course, oh, gee, which events are you talking about there, Crystal Ball? We will be placing other powerful ads into rotation that highlight the reasons we need to elect progressive leaders in Virginia. Of course, they didn't apologize for the ad. They still just blamed Republicans for the ad, when their ad could have very well incited this ISIS sympathizer to kill those people in New York yesterday. It looks like the producers of this ad actually cast some of the actors in the wrong roles. They did have a Muslim in the ad, if you'll recall, who was walking home from school with her black friend who didn't do nothing, of course, when they were then chased down to be murdered by the evil white person driving the truck. But it looks like the white person driving the truck and the Muslim roles were flipped around in the ad. Because, as you know, it's Muslims who 99.9% of the time are the ones who mow down people in vehicles for Allah. In other news, we have plenty more anti-white hate crimes which continue to be ignored by the mainstream media, so let's just cover one of them now. In Philadelphia, this black thug just approached this random white woman who was just walking along the street when he decided to kick her and then punch her, knocking her out cold just for fun, just to play the knockout game, and then he turned around and walked away. Then this group of black people who witnessed the attack came and did they call the police? Did they help her? Did they try to stop the thug who did this? No, they robbed her, stole her wallet, and then took some selfies of themselves with her unconscious body in the background. But we're not supposed to talk about these disturbing facts because, well, facts hurt people's feelings sometimes. Of course, this kind of degenerate behavior can only be attributed to someone who is suffering from the brain-eating virus known as liberalism, which we desperately need to find a cure for.
Wow, powerful report there from Mark Dice. It is absolutely incredible the way the deep state can't hide their glee over the indictment of Paul Manafort and the raising of the curtain on Robert Mueller's play to attempt to trump up charges for the removal of Donald Trump. Let's look at this report.
No evidence that Mr. Manafort or the Trump campaign colluded with the Russian government.
Specifically, I know we have heard a couple of tweets from the president. If you can help me understand, when he says, why aren't crooked Hillary and the Dems the focus, is the president saying that Special Counsel Mueller should really be investigating Hillary Clinton and the Democrats?
Today's announcement has nothing to do with the president, has nothing to do with the president's campaign or campaign activity. The real collusion scandal, as we've said several times before, has everything to do with the Clinton campaign, Fusion GPS, and Russia. There's clear evidence of the Clinton campaign colluding with Russian intelligence to spread disinformation and smear the president to influence the election. We've been saying from day one there's been no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, and nothing in the indictment today changes that at all.
Face it, mainstream mockingbird media, true journalism is a pursuit of truth, emboldened by our inherent freedom. The weapon of truth in the First Amendment, preceding that of the actual right to defend ourselves in the Second Amendment of the Bill of Rights, is a long-held right to wield as American citizens in the home of the brave and the awake. Americans want the truth. They deserve it. Enough is enough. And more Americans will get it, regardless of the CIA media's hellish and treasonous intent to spin it, bend it, and bury it.
And possible collusion by members of the Trump team. Today, two senior members of the Trump campaign team, including former campaign chair Paul Manafort, surrendered themselves to federal authorities, while we also learned of a third member of the campaign team who pleaded guilty.
A source close to the Trump administration told CNN today that the indictments of two former Trump campaign officials have zero to do with the White House. To be fair, you could say the same thing about President Trump on any given day.
The Clinton Foundation did receive $145 million in contributions from individuals connected to Uranium One, beginning at least a year before the sale. And in 2010, the year of the sale, former President Bill Clinton received $500,000 from a Russian bank for a speech he gave in Moscow. For now, those all have been deemed legal transactions. But still, today, Mr. Trump once again stoked these stories on Twitter, suggesting now that even the Obama campaign might have been in on creating the dossier. And on Capitol Hill, congressional Republicans continue their calls to investigate the Clinton campaign.
But it's only a portion of the story. The sharks smelled Trump's populist blood in the news cycle. Yet 2 words, or rather a name, seems to be absent from the Uranium One breakdown involving the cover-up of the FBI's investigation of extortion, money laundering, and racketeering, courtesy of Obama's DOJ lackeys Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch, and the Obama administration's treasonous push to get 20% of American uranium into Russian hands, resulting in a $145 million windfall for the Clinton Foundation. The absent name that breaks the camel's back is Vadim Mikorin. Obama's FBI under Mueller and then Comey, together with the Justice Department under Rod Rosenstein, essentially buried an investigation into Vadim Mikorin, the Russian negotiating the padded no-bid contracts after the Obama administration alerted Congress by approving of the selling off of 20% of the United States uranium supply. And until that part of the Hillary Clinton Russian mafia collusion scandal is brought front and center and fully investigated and prosecuted, Americans' rights are being violated by sycophants that are purposefully lying to their faces. John Bound reporting for Infowars.com.
A terrific piece there by John Bound. I want to let you know I will be in studio all week, not only sitting in on the Alex Jones Show, but here with Owen on The War Room. So be sure you don't miss any of our incredible upcoming outlines for the coup d'etat the establishment has planned for Donald Trump.
Antifa, the group that assaults wheelchair users and violently attacks people for having a different opinion, couldn't damage its own brand any further. Well, think again. During a protest against a Mike Cernovich speech at Columbia University, Antifa demonstrators marched behind a banner that said, "No white supremacy, no Mike Cernovich, and no pedo bashing."
Our streets! Our streets! Our streets!
With the logo of Antifa alongside the logo of NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, a pedophile advocacy group. So let me get this straight. You advocate violently assaulting people for exercising their First Amendment rights, and you also advocate defending people, presumably with physical force, who molest children. Yeah, good luck resonating with that message. No wonder you guys are so obsessed with blocking cameras.
We got to fight back! We got to fight back! Mike Cernovich, man! We got to fight back! White supremacy!
You can block my camera, just don't touch me. Don't touch me, don't touch me. You can block me, just don't touch me.
Oh, and they also said Cernovich would be assassinated soon, because they're nice like that.
Well, welcome to everybody, especially the people who haven't realized that you can only talk to 50 people that I like, or you can throw a fit and run it, and I'll talk to millions. You're my intern. You are my marketing intern. Thanks to you, I will get millions of people watching my message. So thank you very much.
And for those claiming that someone else gave them the sign, doesn't even matter if they did. Either they chose to march behind it, or they didn't even read what they were advocating. Oh, someone might have pulled a false flag against Antifa to make them look bad. Boo-hoo, cry me a river. They're a bunch of scumbags who attack innocent people. Who cares? But see how rapidly the leftist media rushed to Antifa's defense yet again. The same media that says nothing about the numerous fake hate crimes used to smear Trump and his supporters. But should we really be surprised that Antifa is embracing pedophilia? More mainstream elements of the left have been embracing pedophilia for years. Hollywood is run by pedophiles, and they're being exposed one by one every single day. Yet the media still runs defense for child molesters like Kevin Spacey. Left-wing celebrities all worship and defend fugitive pedophile Roman Polanski.
Yes, Roman Polanski, I'm very sorry that he's in jail.
Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign had a predatory sex offender right at its core. Salon.com gave a platform to a pedophile to argue that it was all just a misunderstood sexual preference, and produced a dreamy puff piece profile where he fantasized about molesting kids.
I took on a regular babysitting gig. She was 5. She was a precocious girl. She was advanced for her age. She was also very independent. A lot of my fantasies actually revolve around little girls who are in some way more powerful than I am.
The New York Times publishes articles saying pedophilia shouldn't even be a crime. Elements of the left embrace pedophilia because they're degenerate scum who don't have any morals or principles. So save me the moral grandstanding when you accuse Mike Cernovich of framing Antifa for being pro-pedophilia. It just doesn't wash. Who, by the way, are also meeting with Islamic jihadists because they share the same goals. So Antifa has literally aligned itself with pedophiles and terrorists, while chastising their own supporters for being white.
I put myself at risk of arrest all the time. You're pathetic. You should write your credentials on a giant board for us.
You're still white. You're still responsible. This is your fault. You're inherently racist. It's in your blood. It's in your DNA.
While bragging about using AK-47s to kill conservatives.
Okay, they're gonna take the knife. How much did you bring your gun?
I have like on the border between just a regular rifle and an assault weapon and a sawed-off style shotgun.
And then I've got a handgun. Yeah, I've got 2 AKs coming.
Given the amount of people in the media and on the left who all embraced Antifa and punch a Nazi after Charlottesville, do you think any of them are starting to regret it?
All right, Roger Stone checks out for the day. He'll be back with us in studio tomorrow, here all week with Alex Jones as well. And now we are joined by Matt Dubiel, who is saying some things on Twitter. I have not actually spoken to Matt about that, so let's just get him on air here to talk about that. A whole list of things, actually, that Matt wanted to talk about today. Matt, let's start with Corey Feldman and what you think is going on there. Corey Feldman says he's going to out the pedophiles in Hollywood. He's working on a documentary. He's canceled all of his band tour dates because his band canceled on him, and then he feels he's being threatened now as well. What do you make of everything swirling around Corey Feldman and him saying he's going to release names in the Hollywood pedophile elite?
Thanks. First off, thanks for having me, Owen. It's good to be in the war room for the first time officially. And welcome to Chicago.
How about that?
Chicago.
That's right. Hello, Chicago.
Yeah, say hi to everybody and keep that in mind when everybody in Chicago is stuck in their 1.5 to 3 hour commute on the way home. They are listening, if they're lucky, to the War Room on AM 1530 and FM 102.3. So welcome here. I'm happy that I mean, God bless Corey Feldman. Whatever he went through sounds like it's terrible. I would never want any child. I got 4 kids of my own. The innocence of a child is there's nothing more precious. I hope that he names names, and I hope that he is completely accurate about what he's doing. And my concern is that everybody else kind of has a lot riding on Corey Feldman. And that makes me a little bit concerned. It seems like if everybody's banking on Corey Feldman and then he goes on television, and Matt Lauer asked him some pretty good questions. And I wouldn't say that Matt was being unfair to Corey Feldman when he said, hey, Corey, why do you got to make a movie? Why do you need $10 million? Now, there is truth to the idea that you absolutely need to fund an operation. There's truth to the idea, case in point, InfoWars. If there's no money coming in, and if they can influence your advertisers to leave, then your operation is in danger. And
you've dealt with that. I know that you've dealt with that.
We deal with that. We're dealing with it right now. It happens the minute we put InfoWars back on, the minute we put more shows on. What happens is competitors call up advertisers and they say, hey, you know what they're doing over here? Maybe you should not advertise over there. Maybe you should turn your back on them. And it works, unfortunately. So I'm not arguing with the notion that absolutely Corey needs security. Absolutely Corey is going to need some legal support. But this concept that the guy gets on television and then the first thing he's doing is talking about raising $10 million for a movie is a little bit concerning. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I just would bring everyone's attention on the internet, on Twitter, across social media to say, you support him a little bit, but don't put your eggs all in that one basket, because it is a little bit of a shaky basket. And we need more people besides Corey Feldman to kind of take up this charge a little bit.
Well, I'll play the role of Feldman's defense here. Not that you're attacking him, just to for the sake of this conversation. I will say that, one, he did say in that interview with Rat Lauer that, hey, you know, why is everyone relying on me? Why am I the one with all the pressure? So he did kind of address that in his video, but I think I hear what you're saying. And I think that the reason why he wants to make this video and specifically get the funding is because he knows that essentially this is him pretty much ending his career, ending whatever life that he was going to have, ending whatever. It's all, they will ruin him completely. They will come after him. You know that that's what's going to happen. So I think that that's why he wants the funding for security and everything. But having said that, while everybody is kind of waiting for this whole thing to break, I think that there's kind of an anticipation that he's going to be the one to break it. And so that's why it's like, yeah, let's not completely put all this pressure on Corey. Let Corey do his thing. Let him go down his path. But there needs to be others out there that have the same courage.
There have to be, and it's there's two things. Number one, 1 week Matt Lauer is interviewing Corey Feldman, and he's very serious. 1 week later, Matt Lauer is in drag, dressed up as Dolly Parton on the Today Show. So everybody needs to take that into account. When you're looking at who do you listen to and who do you watch and where do you get your information from, everybody in America has to understand who Matt Lauer is and what exactly he is. Matt Lauer is an entertainer and nothing more. He's a guy that reads from a teleprompter. So take that into full consideration. And the way you know that is he was dressed as Dolly Parton on the show that he hosts that purports to be a news and information show. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with dressing with Dolly Parton. I mean, you do what you want, but when you do it on television, you can't also then say, I'm the news authority in America. You were dressed as Dolly Parton on Halloween, Matt.
Well, we know who Rat Lauer really is. That's why I don't give him the credit of actually saying his real name. It's Rat Lauer. So please, Matt, respect this program and refer to him as Rat Lauer in the future. But I've been wondering this. I tweeted this out, Matt. I actually tweeted this out yesterday morning. This was before the terror attack even happened in New York City, because everything that's happening with the Russia deal is insane. Everything that's become so politicized is insane. So I tweeted out yesterday, have we reached peak insanity? I thought that yesterday was the moment in time where it was like, okay, we've reached peak insanity. We cannot get any more insane than we've already gotten. Then a terror attack happens in New York City, and I'm not kidding you. I have a stack of news here. First, I have a stack of tweets of leftists defending Muslims and attacking Americans. That's one stack. And then I've got another stack of the news saying, don't you dare come after Muslims. I mean, can we get any more insane as a society right now?
Probably. Unfortunately, the answer is we probably can. You know, the phrase I hear bandied about among the people that I talk to is idiocracy. I haven't seen the movie, but people keep telling me that I got to watch.
You need to see it. I mean, you're watching it in real time, but the movie's good too.
Yeah, and so as an example, I was with my grandmother yesterday, and she was watching the news, and she's 99, God bless her. And, you know, imagine what somebody that witnessed the Great Depression, the big war, and the advent of television and radio, and she's watching this television, and she looked at me and she said, you can't even go outside anymore. There's two problems really, though. One problem is that we do live in a mad world. But the real problem that I've sort of identified as the root to all of this is everybody else that isn't doing anything, which is most people, unfortunately, in this world. They have too much time on their hands. That's why you have a stack of tweets. I mean, imagine my grandmother and grandfather and your grandparents and great-grandparents didn't live in a world where they could just sit on their behinds and opine about what could and couldn't be done, what should and shouldn't be done. They were too busy figuring out how to feed their 10 kids. And people are too comfortable in the United States right now. Everybody has too much time on their hands. And when that changes, when people have to struggle to figure out how to make ends meet, when people have to struggle how to make sure that they are clothed and fed and have shelter, that will change dramatically. Right now, the echo chamber is just too echoey because too many people are just yapping about nothing. all day long. And their job isn't to do what you do. It's perfectly okay for an Owen Schroyer, for an Alex Jones, for a Roger Stone, and others whose job it is to sit there and talk about these issues, to talk about them. Everybody else, for some reason, based on the world of social media and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and every other outlet they have, it feels emboldened to host their own show and talk to their own echo chamber about their feelings about what's happening. And that's part of the problem.
Well, this is actually an interesting point. We're about to go to break here, but I want to carry this on to the other side of the break because I have people that constantly say to me, and I understand this, you understand this, most of the people that listen to this program, they already understand what we're talking about. They're probably right along the same lines of everything we're talking about and thinking. But I think that the difference is, and what you're kind of tuning into right now is there is still, it's like this, these numbers aren't accurate, but let's just say America is splintered into 3 groups. You have the group of Americans that are awake, you have the group of Americans that are totally brainwashed, and then you have the group of Americans that aren't even there. They're not even in the playing field yet. They're still just kind of floating, loitering around, maybe starting to notice some weird things. That's who we're trying to tap into. That's who we can bring to our side. And once we get that group, the other group is completely over. So that's why it's important to reach out to them. We'll be right back with another segment with Matt Dubiel. Okay, we've got breaking news here. Person of interest wanted for questioning in New York City terror attack. The FBI and the NYPD are looking to question a second person of interest in Tuesday's Manhattan, NBC says, truck attack, Islamic terrorist attack. But it's the truck's fault. Is it the truck's name? Was it the truck that's named Muhammadazur Kadyrov? Is that the truck's name? No, that's the person of interest. I wonder where Muhammadazur came from. Does have a bit of a... This could be another Chechnyan, much like what we saw with the Boston Marathon bombing. But we'll find out about all that. But this is actually really interesting. We're still here with Matt Dubiel. So just to recap this a little bit, yesterday, terror attack in New York. The first reports come out that there was gunshots fired as well as the terrorists ramming people down in the truck. Then you had eyewitnesses saying they did not see the person that got out of the truck with a gun, but in video you can clearly see that the person was wielding weapons, and the police immediately recognized that, shot him, and it turned out to be fake guns. So the questions remained, what did the eyewitnesses see when they said they didn't see guns? And were there really gunshots fired if the driver of the truck only had fake guns? Well, now they're saying there is another person of interest. Could that person have been there at the scene of the crime? We will find that. But the FBI is now seeking information on Muhammadazur Kadyrov, another suspect in the terror attack from yesterday. Matt, this is another terror attack that can be traced right back to Democrat legislation. The tweet that Donald Trump Jr. put out that was, if I told you one Skittle in this bowl of Skittles was poisonous, would you reach your hand in and take a bite? And then it turns out that illustration is literally exactly what this lottery program was. That was Democrat legislation that now led to a terror attack.
I would really like Owen to get Keith Olbermann's take on the whole issue because I've been reading Keith's rantings on Twitter. How does Keith Olbermann stay on Twitter? I don't understand because
how does he stay out of a nut house?
According to, and by the way, this is another example of the too much time on our hands. In the old days, Keith Olbermann, after he got fired from his 10 previous jobs, never would have worked in the media again. He wouldn't be doing a TV show at a magazine, which I love.
Hold on. Brian Williams gets to lie about being under, fire, but he gets to work for MSNBC still. He's trusted. So, of course, Keith Olbermann, a nut house reporting out of his basement, he deserves airtime.
It's unbelievable. But according to Keith Olbermann, the first suspect that they took into custody is from Florida. Now, I don't know if Keith knows how to look at a map, but Uzbekistan and Florida are very different looking And just because you came to the United States by way of Florida, by way of a lottery system, which basically is like rolling the dice, it's not a merit-based system at all, which obviously our president wants to move to. We're supposed to be a meritocracy. This concept of rolling the dice and winning the lottery so that you get into the country means that sometimes, unfortunately, we're going to grab that poisonous Skittle out of the bowl of Skittles. And I'm sorry, Skittles. I'm sure that you don't like that analogy, but to say that this guy from Uzbekistan who came here from a lottery program is from Florida is completely misrepresenting the truth. Keith should be ashamed of himself. He should be blocked from Twitter. He should be labeled fake news. It's like saying that Vasco da Gama, Leif Erikson, and Ponce de Leon are from Florida just because.
Don't stop there. Do not stop there, Matt. Keith Olbermann belongs in a nut house.
Well, that is for a medical professional to ascertain. I am not a medical professional, and I don't play one on TV or on the radio. But
you did stay at a Holiday Inn last night.
He does seem unhinged. I mean, any man that would go, you know what, I think my book cover, I want me in almost like the fetal position on the floor with the flag draped around me. That's my book cover. I think that alone makes you go like, well, what's up with this guy? Meanwhile, by the way, notice how all the crazies point at the president and say he's unfit for office. And I'm wondering, like, what is the evidence? Show me why he is unfit for office, because he's not taking crap anymore.
Look at this. Keith Olbermann,
out of his mind.
This guy is literally mentally deranged. His whole book should be "I am effing crazy." I mean, this is how unhinged he is, though. He said I mean, it's like, Matt. They don't even live in their own reality. Like, they don't even look. It's like Keith Olbermann goes on Twitter, calls out Tommy Loren for violating the flag code, which my understanding of the code, my philosophical understanding of the code is that Tommy Loren didn't violate the flag code. You have to actually use a flag. It has to be an actual flag in order to violate the code. So Keith Olbermann he's so stupid. He is so brain dead, he doesn't even realize that the cover of his book is him violating the flag code. Look at that. He's violating the flag code. He's letting it touch the ground. He's using it as clothing. And then he calls out Tommy Loren when it wasn't even Tommy Loren that violated the code.
Yeah, and I didn't even know what was going on until I follow you on Twitter, and I read your tweet, and I went like, oh my gosh, that's why in the good book, they have these commandments in there, and not that I follow. I mean, I'm not perfect, but one of the things you're not supposed to do is you're not supposed to judge, because when you judge, then you could be judged. And at least if you're going to judge, and if you're going to do it on Twitter, you might want to make sure that you're not tweeting exactly the opposite of what you're judging somebody for doing. And that's almost always what these people end up doing is you see them complaining about you doing something or somebody else doing something, and then you go back and you look in their history and they're doing the exact same stuff. Here it comes back to the number one root problem in America right now, which is people have too much time on their hands. If they didn't have so much time on their hands, they couldn't take an issue and extrapolate it and stretch it out and make it last days. If they weren't watching 24-hour news 24 hours a day, they wouldn't be able to do this. And if the president, I really wish, and Alex has suggested this time and time again on his show and on other shows out there at InfoWars, I wish the president would get into the fireside chat mode and start taking the message to the people outside of Twitter, because it's more important now than ever that they hear from somebody, that the adults start talking and the adults start leading the country, because this echo chamber of morons that have too much time on their hands while they're waiting for, I don't know, their welfare check, or they're waiting in line at the DMV, or they're playing on Facebook while they're at work and they're supposed to be generating some productivity, has gotten completely out of hand.
Yeah, like the nerve of Seth Meyers. We played this in a video we played a couple segments ago. Can you believe the nerve of a Seth Meyers who says President Trump basically spends none of his time at the White House because he's making a joke like, oh, this guy's never. Are you kidding me, Seth Meyers? Trump busts his ass every day working for this country, working like 19, 20 hours a day. And then some nitwit on late night comedy has the nerve to say anything about that. 20 seconds, Matt Dubiel, final words.
It's like assuming that Seth Meyers only works an hour a day because his show's only an hour a day. We all know what goes into these sort of things. They're working much longer than an hour. Trump is there first thing in the morning. He's there till all hours of the night. I've heard the guy answers the phone sometimes. So Seth Meyers is another idiot.
Yeah, and you know what? Unfortunately for him, he's not funny. Thank you, Matt Dubiel. The news is literally insane. And you can't even believe that this is reality. But I realized something last night. And it was so important to me. I even literally had to take notes and write it down so I didn't forget about it. We are living through the beginning of the new Renaissance. If you look at history, the Renaissance, they say it lasted about 300 years. This Renaissance will probably last maybe 30 to 100 years. Time is just compressed now. But we are living at the beginning of the next Renaissance. This is the new Renaissance. This is the new Great Awakening that we're living through right now. So eventually, everybody will be on essentially what we'll just call the Trump movement. And this is, it'll be credited as starting with the Trump movement. But the truth is, it started years ago with the quote unquote conspiracy theorists. And now here we are, really, it will be credited as the Trump movement that started the new Renaissance. So they don't realize it yet. The leftists don't realize it yet. But either they or their lineage, if they choose to have one, which they probably won't anyway, so that might add to it, everyone will eventually be in the quote unquote Trump movement. Everybody will eventually be in the quote unquote new right, or whatever you want to call it, conservatives, all these labels. No. It's a renaissance of common sense. It's a renaissance of logic. It's a renaissance, yes, of conservatism, conserving the greatest standard of living in the history of the world, in the United States of America. So eventually everyone will be a part of this. You cannot stop that momentum. And they're trying to stop it because they wanted, the New World Order and the globalists wanted to have their renaissance where they already etched out the future in stone and you don't get a say. Population control, one world government, one world currency, no cash, get your ID chip, on and on and on, total government control. Well, we've decided we don't want that. We've shed a light on their plan and we don't like it. And so thus the new Great Awakening, thus the new Renaissance. And once we have our total victory, and once we have our total victory over the culture and over the society, and we return the true ideas of America, self-government, self-dependence, family, faith, justice, truth, liberty. Once we've got to that point, then you'll start to see, as it always happens in these human evolutions, in these human revolutions, then groups will start to splinter off and have different ideas. You're already starting to see that a little bit with the quote-unquote Trump base. So that's how this is going to go. And the craziest thing to me right now, watching put it simply, the losers, which we identify as leftists, watching them flounder and flake and freak out and literally scream at the sky, that is a psychological response you have when your reality is shattering all around you. Just like a child that gets grounded and then throws a temper tantrum. It's the same thing. But the craziest thing that I'm witnessing now, and I've said this before and I'm here to say it again, all leftist policies, the only means to an end of their policies is death. Literally. Think about it. Just look at what's happening with the multiculturalism, killing Sweden, killing Europe. Just had people die in the United States. Look at abortion, literally killing babies. Leftist policies always end in death. Think about it. They want everybody to be gay. Well, then you can't procreate. So it just goes on and on. But that is why, if you look at history, every socialist, every communist regime always leads to mass death. Now, when you bring this up to the leftist protesters on the street, they tell you that's capitalism, and then your jaw literally drops to the floor with how stupid and uneducated these people really are. Even when they tell you that they did their research, just check into Age Skrillex. But now look at really how delusional these people are now. Yesterday, we had an act of war against our country. And even the commissioner, or it was de Blasio, or maybe it was Cuomo, one of them slipped up and said, every time we have one of these lone wolves attack, think about that statement in and of itself, folks. They're trying to sell you a bill of goods that the attacker yesterday was a lone wolf, but they had a Freudian slip and said plural, and then even grouped it all together because they all are attacking us for the same damn thing. Because they're radical Islamists that hate our way of life. So you have an act of war against our country by radical Islam, and then the left sides with Islam. The left obsesses over Trump Russia. They don't even care that we're under attack. They don't even care that the history of communism has left hundreds of millions dead. They don't care. They just have their virtue signaling tactics. How about the fact that leftist protesters, you can't even go to a liberal protest without hearing Trump is Hitler or seeing a sign talking about how Trump is Hitler. These same protesters that are so obsessed with Hitler, regardless of the fact they're funded by George Soros, a Nazi collaborator. I've got new news on that we'll break here in the next segment. So regardless of whether the fact their movements are funded by a Nazi collaborator, how about this? We now have declassified government documents that Hitler escaped from Nazi Germany to South America with government cover. The left sits here, obsesses with Trump being Hitler, completely ignores the new revelations about Hitler's life and how he escaped to South America. Nothing. You would think that these people that think Hitler's the worst thing ever, and maybe he is, maybe he isn't, regardless, you would think that these people who cry over Hitler's existence, think Trump is the incarnate here, the reincarnate, you'd think they'd be fired up about the fact that the U.S. government covered up Hitler's escape to South America. You'd think the left would be upset over Operation Paperclip, which brought in hundreds of Nazi scientists to work for the U.S. government. Silence from the left. Totally silence. And then, as if it isn't enough that these people are mentally retarded, you have a Democrat ad that runs telling you to be scared of white males driving trucks. And then in less than 48 hours, a radical Muslim terrorist actually runs people over in a truck. But they will not tell you that exists. In fact, it was a truck attack. So it's not a truck attack if it's a white man behind it, then it's a white racist Confederate. But if it's a radical Islamic terror that actually mows people down in a truck, that we actually have over 30 times has happened now. No, see, that's just a truck attack, and it's just a lone wolf, even though we admit it's lone wolves and that this is an act of war against our country. So that is the current reality that we live in, and when you really boil it all down, it is truly disturbing, folks. It is truly disturbing. You know, here's a piece of disturbing news that I saw today. This is from a study. Prenatal pollution exposure linked to decreased telomere length. Oh, the current study found that prenatal environmental pollution exposure was linked to decreased telomere length measured in cord blood and placental cells. The second trimester in particularly was demonstrated to be vulnerable time during gestation. So you now are hearing things about telomeres and what happens when your telomeres decrease, that you basically age faster. So folks, we have DNA Force at InfoWars Store right now. And this is how we fight back. We see what's in the environment, we see how it's meant to attack us, and we see how it's destroying our very biology. So we give you products to fight back. DNA Force, 25% off, a product that helps fix your telomeres, helps keep your telomeres intact. Our telomeres are under attack. We now have the studies, so we have the product 25% off, DNA Force at InfoWarsStore.com. Ladies and gentlemen, it was an act of war, what happened in New York City yesterday, and the left has not only become compliant with the enemy, but they have full-blown Stockholm Syndrome, and I'm going to break that down for you right now. First, let's look at the backdrop. ISIS calls for attacks on Halloween celebrations. Get out before it's too late. So ISIS says attack people on Halloween, terrorize October 31st, get out before it's too late while they're out on the street. So there you go. ISIS calls for violence on Halloween. Okay, that is, again, a call for an act of war. Chilling image of an ISIS flag taken at the exact spot as the New York terror attack appeared online just weeks ago. Wow, think about that. Someone goes there with the ISIS flag, takes a picture of exactly where the terror attack happened. Do you think that that's a coincidence, or again, ISIS planning attacks of war against our country? How about a little more proof, and to make it a little more sickening for you? At sight of New York City terror attack, the school bell rang, then hell broke out. Yeah, you think that's a coincidence? You think it's a coincidence that this terrorist decided to mow down people in the streets right after school let out? This event happened right next to a school, right next to a very populated area, specifically with kids because of the school and the parks nearby. So this ISIS terrorist called out for ISIS to attack on Halloween, an image of the ISIS flag at the exact spot of the terrorist attack, and it happens right as the children are called out of school. Okay? So there you go. This was an act of war against our country by ISIS. But guess what? The political and societal left have Stockholm Syndrome and are complying with the enemy. Here are some, these are just from verified accounts, because verified accounts get more views on Twitter and you get more notifications from these people. This is from Makdad Versi. The strength of Nadia Hussein in the face of such bigotry. Again, these are all the day after Muslim terrorists kill 8 people in New York City, is a lesson for us all. The bigotry against Muslims, folks. After Muslims murder 8 people, it's bigotry against Muslims. Yet the fact she has to face this racism and anti-Muslim bigotry is unfortunately symptomatic of what some sections of our society have become. What in the hell does that mean, other than you are siding with radical Islamic terrorist, you sick freak, Madik Versi? Goes on. Danielle Campo Amor. To New Yorkers, be New Yorkers. I love you, New York City. So proud to live in a city that won't tolerate bigotry and Muslim fear-mongering. Again, just an hour after a Muslim says Allahu Akbar and murders 8 people, this sick, twisted Stockholm Syndrome freak, this mentally deranged person, is proud to live in a city that won't tolerate bigotry and Muslim fear-mongering, unless, of course, that's bigotry against America by a radical Muslim. They love that. Samantha Power. This is someone who worked in the Obama administration. We can't expect every GOP senator to stand up to Trump like Senator Flake, a loser, but we should expect them to speak up against Roy Moore's naked anti-Muslim bigotry. So far, only Flake and Senator Sass have. The day after a Muslim murders 8 people, Samantha Power says that we have to watch out for anti-Muslim bigotry. But don't watch out for that Muslim that just murdered 8 people on the streets of New York. Don't do that. That would be a bigot. Qasim Rashid. My deepest condolences to the victims of this horrific attack. Really? My immense love to New Yorkers for standing united against anti-Muslim bigotry. Again, standing up for the Muslim after he murdered 8 people. Joy Reid. This is supposed to be a journalist. The tragedy in New York City is that 8 people are dead. New Yorkers don't have an hysterical, she can't even type right, a hysterical fear of Muslims, so no one bother marketing that here. The suspect has now been charged with an act of terror and murdered 8 people in the name of Allah. So don't have a fear of Muslims, even though a Muslim just killed 8 people in the streets of New York after he shouted Allah. So So the real tragedy here, Joy Reid, is that you're a journalist and you're literally dumber than horse crap. Lauren Duca, keep the Muslim fear-mongering to yourself. New Yorkers don't F with that. Muslim fear-mongering. Again, so if you come up and a spider bites you in the leg, let's say a brown recluse bites you in the leg, and then you have to amputate your leg, and then every time you see a spider, you get a little freaked out. Don't have arachnophobia even though you lost your leg because of a spider. Don't fear Muslims even though one was just on the streets of New York shouting Allahu Akbar and ran over 8 people and killed them. Lauren Duca honestly might be the dumbest person in America, and that is saying something. Wow. Then there's this guy, Isaac Stonefish. How about I am stoned fish? I smell like fish. I'm dumber than a fish. The most Trumpian thing most people do is overreact to a small terror attack. A small terror attack. It's just a small terror attack, according to Isaac Stonefish. 8 people died. I'm sure it's a small terror attack to the families of the 8 people that died. Actually, 5 of the people that died were from Argentina, and the entire country of Argentina is mourning the loss of those people. So maybe it's not such a small terrorist attack, Isaac Stonefish. Oh my gosh, I'm literally, these people make me so sick. It is so sickening. But these people are honestly victims. They've been completely brainwashed and they have Stockholm Syndrome. Or they just hate everyone, including themselves. How about Chuck Schumer? Sorry, guys, I didn't put this in the stack, but Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer. Oh my gosh, this guy. I'm calling on President Trump to rescind his proposed cuts to the vital anti-terrorism funding immediately. So Chuck Schumer's logic is, let's not stop my policies, because it can all fall back on Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. Let's not stop my policies that bring the terrorists here. Let's keep the terrorists coming and then give the police more money to fight it, even though that doesn't do anything. Chuck Schumer blames Trump when it's his legislation that led to this terrorist being here. Kristen Gillibrand. This is not who we are. This is a senator, another senator. The New Yorkers I know pull together and roll up their sleeves in times of tragedy. What does that even mean? It means I'm virtue signaling. I'm not going to say that this was a Muslim, and I'm going to blame any Americans for this because they hate Muslims. I am a total nitwit named Kristen Gillibrand, and I love Muslims but hate America. So that's what your tweets really say. And no, that's not who we are. So who we are is just getting attacked by terrorists and letting it go, according to these people. Now, this is some of the responses we got from the media. You won't even believe this. Mosque where New York City terrorist suspect worshipped was target of controversial New York Police Department surveillance effort. So wait a second. They say that it's controversial that the New York Police Department was investigating this mosque. Then it turns out that the terrorist worshipped at that mosque. So even though the New York Police Department was right on the case to be watching this mosque where the terrorist went to worship Allah, they still say it was controversial even though they actually had the right mosque where a terrorist came from. How mentally deranged must you be to write that headline? I got news for you. It's not controversial when the murderer was attending that mosque. You're controversial. No, and you know what? You're not even controversial. You're mentally deranged. NBC News. Muslim Americans again brace for backlash after New York attack. Folks, they completely ignore the victims of radical Islamic terror. They completely ignore the fact that these people are probably flooding into our country because of the Obama administration. They don't even care that under the Bush administration, the Obama administration, and now even the Trump administration, we are bombing these countries. We bomb these people. You don't think they might not want to come here and stab us and run us over in cars and create homemade explosive devices to try to kill us all? Are you that stupid? Yes. The answer is yes. They are that stupid. They are that brainwashed. They are that deep into Stockholm Syndrome that, yes, they would rather side with radical Islam to not be politically incorrect then actually go with the common sense, actually go with the logic, actually go with the instinct of life preservation. I've said it once, I'll say it before. The only means to an end, the only logical means to an end of leftist and liberal policies is death. That is not an exaggeration, that is literal. Leftist, liberal, Democrat policies will kill us all.
One of the producers just put together some of this where the FBI, even in the indictment, talks about how he would try to go get the Trump people in the last year to do stuff, and they never agreed to it. All you got the Trump people doing is trying to find out if Hillary was working with the Russians. The only people that weren't working with the Russians were basically the Trump folks, and people like me and Tucker Carlson, they said might be a Russian agent. Or Rand Paul. Yeah, right. Yeah, me and Tucker Carlson and Rand Paul. Let me tell you, if we're Russian agents, we really are screwed. Oh, but we're the ones turning America back on, turning the stock market back on, defending the Second Amendment, defending our veterans. Yeah, we know who the enemy is. You judge a tree by its fruits. I don't want to hear talk. I want to see action. So, let's go over here. Come on over here, Matt. Lay it out here in the light and go over these articles for us.
Hey, y'all. This is why I believe Papadopoulos was most likely a plant and also working on behalf of...
Well, we know he was a plant. You mean a plant from the beginning?
From the beginning. Let's take a look back to an article that was published by the Washington Post early in August 14th. If you take a look at this date right here, you'll see that in the third paragraph of the article, they say that this guy, George Papadopoulos, who was a junior aide to the campaign, actually was a volunteer at first, so not even an official campaign aide. He repeatedly attempted to make contact or to sell contact with the Russian government, although higher-ups repeatedly shot him down, including Jeff Sessions.
So this is all admitted, and this is during the campaign. This isn't Hillary 20 years ago or 10 years ago or a year ago selling out. This is just some junior guy. This isn't Hillary. It isn't Mueller on a tarmac. Imagine if we had him on a tarmac or Trump on a tarmac giving uranium out. So the question is, did he wear a wire?
So no contact was ever made with senior campaign officials. All campaign officials shot him down. But it was reported that, again, he attempted to make efforts, which caused a little bit of a splash in the media, but it was actually overlooked. Fast forward to today, we find out that he is now saying that he lied. So in his new statement, in his guilty plea, you've got an overview, and it's not until you get way down to the very bottom, you can go through the whole timeline of his guilty plea, and it's not until you get to the very end of his timeline that it says that the trip proposed by the defendant did not take place. All of this, the meat of this document, of this guilty plea, is him stating that he repeated all of his attempts. And if you read it, it makes it look like the attempts were successful, his attempts to make contact. Furthermore, this document, this guilty plea, also says
this piece of fiction,
his contact was related to Vladimir Putin, a woman who was a foreign national, a friend of a Russian professor.
Is that like the YouTube guy saying Comey was his godfather?
Yeah, he was not named. The professor was not named in this guilty plea, first off. Second off, the female foreign Russian national was related to Vladimir Putin. That doesn't make sense. Why would Vladimir Putin send a family member as a fall person to make contact with the Trump campaign, and nonetheless a junior aide who was a volunteer? Okay,
but if you look carefully, you can see like Russian paraphernalia.
That makes literally no sense. The other thing that makes this look like Mueller is conducting a vicious media campaign to demonize Trump and to also make this look more salacious than it is the fact that he actually filed this on October 5th, and it's being strategically released today with the indictments of Manafort and his
20 plus days later, right? Because it's all coming out. They were planning on sitting on it, but because it all came out that they'd sold out to Russia, not the Trump people, is sick.
Exactly. And now you can see that today they're spinning it into the most salacious headline ever. A guilty plea from a former Trump campaign aide. And they're saying it's the first domino to fall. It's a big deal. Notice they use bold font there.
Big deal.
It's a big deal.
Oh, but then you actually read it. It's literally, they don't
anybody with two brain cells that they can rub together will realize that this is a work of almost pure fiction. And I doubt this can be corroborated. I highly doubt this can be corroborated.
Welcome back to the War Room. We are now joined in studio by Leanne McAdoo, and she is going to have her first taste here on the War Room of laughing at liberals. It's one of our new favorite segments here when we look at all of the liberal nonsense in the news, and we just laugh, Leanne.
A little chuckle.
What else can you do at this point? I mean, these people are mentally deranged. If they don't want to take the red pill and they want to stay mentally deranged, then what else can we do but laugh at them? We might as well have a good laugh, right?
Yes, or sigh long.
I don't know. Can you really feel that bad for a person that rejects help, rejects medicine,
Or science.
Science, facts, logic, reasoning, probably their own gut instincts, all of it. Laughing at President Trump wants to get involved today in the laughing at liberals. All right, let's start with this one. I mean, again, honestly, because I can either get so mad that I'm literally like smoke is coming out of my ears when I see this, or I can just try to relax and just have a good laugh at how pathetic and sad this all really is. But this is from Adon Salazar at InfoWarsStore.com. Snoop Dogg hovers over Trump corpse in new album promotion. The album is Make America Crip Again. So that's nice. Let's make America a gang, a murderous drug-dealing gang.
Right. He's so edgy. I mean, grasping at straws here. This is like...
But look at that image, Leanne.
Grandpa at the party. Yeah, I mean, it's just like not edgy to be against Trump. Eminem's trying it too. That's his comeback.
Who also has a new album coming out.
Right.
Conveniently.
I don't know. It just gets diluted.
So it's kind of like they're basically going to fake news themselves out of existence. They're going to continue to have all these fake virtue signals and to act like Trump's the bad guy. Nobody's going to buy it. Nobody believes it anymore, except literally the dumbest of the dumb.
Like the Crips and the Bloods. So this is like the left versus the right. I mean, their color is even blue. So
interesting. You think that might be why? Well, I guess
a little nod to the.
Was Snoop a Crip or a Blood? I don't know.
Well, I don't think.
Does anybody know? Snoop was a Crip. Snoop was a Crip, so the Crips wear blue. Yeah, so he's the Democrat wearing blue, and he wants Trump dead. The
Dems want to make this country Crip again, apparently.
Yeah, well, they want to make it a gangland.
Right. Obviously, look at the open borders issue.
Oh, I see. So you're actually, okay. You're actually giving Snoop Dogg credit for at least being honest. He's like, yeah, I want to make America big fat gangland and murder people I don't like.
Yeah.
So Snoop, we should give him credit for being honest.
Yeah, you have your gangsters there in politics, also then they're in entertainment, and they all kind of work together to collude and delude the nation.
Doesn't it kind of suck though, Leanne? I mean, honestly, who knows? You know that the CIA was running a lot of the media. They were running MTV to try to destroy the black culture, try to make black culture about gangsters, about drug dealing and all this.
Right.
That was a CIA attempt to destroy the black culture. Snoop Dogg may have been a part of that. Wouldn't surprise me. The CIA literally implanted rappers. I'm sure that happened.
Right. Ran the drugs in their communities.
Right. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. But I can't decide if I should be upset because Snoop Dogg is... I don't even know what he is. Is he a controlled rapper? Is he a foaming at the mouth liberal? Or it's like, it sucks that we have to deal with this. I don't want to hate Snoop Dogg. I don't want to come on air and talk about Snoop Dogg hating America. I would rather just say, hey, Snoop Dogg's a rapper and he does his thing. Why do you have to come after America?
Is this like calling for the gangs to take out Trump? I mean, is this another call for assassination? But again, it's free speech. He's allowed to do it here in this country.
So, but it's just sad. Again, I don't want to talk trash on Snoop Dogg. He's a rapper. Why should I care? Why should I even be reporting on him? Well, it's because he has an album cover that depicts Trump as dead, and Trump is literally leading the new American Renaissance, the only chance this country has of even surviving. So, but good luck, Snoop, if America dies, releasing any albums.
Snoop-a-loop. Any
albums at all. Here's another story from Infowars.com from Kit Daniels. Full-page New York Times ad demands Antifa revolution to overthrow Trump. But Leanne, I swear to you, I read it in multiple publications, Newsweek. They said Alex Jones was fake news and that there was no November 4th riots being planned by Antifa.
Right. And this ad was taken out by, who was the group against fascism.
Well, this is refusefascism.org.
So this is the George Soros funded group that is putting this all together and saying that they're going to march in every city and every town every single day until there's millions of these protests going on. This is what we've been talking about for years with this divide and conquer and how they're wanting this civil unrest in the streets. And we're really seeing it play out in real time.
Yeah, and I lost my other story here, but basically, once again, you can track all of this funding back to you-know-who, George Soros,
who his son is following in his footsteps. So it's not like we're going to be rid of him when the old man croaks.
Yeah, Alexander Soros, he's already having, parties or gatherings or whatever you want to say with senators like Chuck Schumer and other people. Actually, unfortunately, some people even and I believe in Trump's cabinet have attended some of those meetings. So hopefully nothing comes of that. Maybe that was just to get intel. But it's amazing that we'll report on the fact that Antifa is planning violence on November 4th. Fake news will say that we're making the whole thing up, and then they literally buy an entire page advertising.
No, but they're still going to say that that's not real, like it doesn't exist.
Pull it up, guys. Was it Newsweek? Pull it up. InfoWars fake news, November 4th Antifa riots. See if you can find this. But that's what I'm telling you.
Well, maybe that's what it's not the riots. They're called peaceful protests.
Oh, give me a break.
When they bring the sticks and the bats. And
Yeah. Nightmare
peaceful.
must end. Trump regime must go. November 4th, it begins. Determined not to stop until this regime is driven from power. What do you think that means?
Regime change. I mean, these are like CIA words right now. The regime change. They want regime change in our country, and this is how they went about doing it, like with the different color revolutions and things in other countries. They supported the uprising of the people, and they continued to goad them and went there actually to train them. Wasn't it Google that went? I forget which executive from Google went and helped them learn how to use the power of social media to overthrow regimes in these other countries. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. It's just incredible that people are falling for this.
Well, but they don't even know what fascism is. You could go up, they say, march with the thousands. I could ask the thousands, what is fascism? They couldn't give me one historical example. They couldn't give me one regime. They don't even know what fascism is. So they're out here saying, we refuse fascism. Okay, what's fascism? Racist. I mean, that's literally how this conversation goes with these people.
Yeah, or they're like, don't talk to InfoWars.
Oh yeah, don't talk to him.
They're just going to make you a viral meme.
Don't talk to him. He'll prove you to be an idiot. That's what they said. How does the saying go? Better be silent and be thought of as an idiot than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Right.
I think that's how it goes. Well, the left has completely removed all doubt now, so thank you for that. All right, let's move on here. Actually, let's go to this one first, Leanne. Oh boy, this whole stack is intriguing. Wait till you see this next one. Okay, but this one though. This is from, I believe this one was from Bloomberg, guys. Yeah, Bloomberg. Americans are officially freaking out. Almost 2/3 say this is the lowest point in U.S. history, and it's keeping them up at night. Well, I don't buy any of these polls anymore, regardless. However, I do actually agree. I can barely sleep at night. I struggle to sleep at night. If I'm not taking my knockout from Infowars.com, I'm probably not sleeping. But that's just because it's all so crazy. That's because we're literally in a war of information, a war of the mind right now.
Right. And we were talking about this last night. Just people are actually split in their realities. And so they are fighting for their version of reality to hold on to that as
Which
true.
is crumbling all around them.
And it's not true. It's crumbling all around them. Right. The facts are finally coming to the surface with everything. The media that has been able to control the flow of information for all of these years is also losing their power. So people's reality is being shattered right now. And so that's why we're dealing with like mental illness everywhere, because people are there. I mean, when your paradigm is totally shattered, it does send you into a state of a little bit of instability.
And everybody's experienced that. Imagine you're on a ladder and you're trying to climb to safety, and the media keeps telling you that the next rung is there. So you reach for the next rung, and then you realize it's not even there. And you're trying to climb this ladder, and all the rungs that the media told you were there, literally none of them are there. So now you're just falling into nothingness, and you're freaking out, screaming at the sky, and you think Trump is to blame for everything. No, folks. We'll be right back with another segment. You know, something something I forgot to mention earlier when Roger Stone was on, who's been blocked and censored by Twitter. Facebook and Twitter essentially have a monopoly right now, I would say, on social media. Maybe it's not a total monopoly, but for all intensive purposes, the way they get plugged on all media, the way they get plugged on all news broadcasts, the ticker timelines, everyone shares their Twitter handle and everything with Facebook. For the most part, that is, I would say, a monopoly on social media, the internet ghettos, as Matt Drudge put it. I, for one, have become so, first of all, I haven't had Facebook in 4 years now, so I can't even really complain about that garbage. I don't even have to deal with it. But Twitter, I've almost gotten so sick of it that I'm almost just done. I'm just so done with Twitter. I'm so done with the censorship. That why would I want to be on that platform? But then this is the element, Leanne, that makes it difficult. Because they have a monopoly of that flow of information, we have to be there, and we have to jack into that mainstream, even though they are trying to censor it. And this is actually a big story that we don't even cover enough. I wish that I could switch to Gab right now, and it would be seamless, it would be easy, but I can't even do it because Google Play and the Apple App Store have blocked Gab from even being on their platforms.
Right. They'll never allow anyone else to come up in the ranks to take them over. So
I'm going to reach out to, maybe we'll get Andrew Torba on again. What can we do about that? How can they block a competitor? See, that's how you know it's a monopoly, and there is a congruence of people trying to stop Gab from rising, a true free speech platform. That's why they call it hate speech. You cannot get Gab on Google Play or the Apple App Store, which is important because that's how you do it from your phone. That's the easiest way with the app to do it from your phone or tablet. So they figure, all we do is ban them off there, and they'll pretty much disappear. Well, I know Andrew Torba is not going to go away without a fight.
Right. That was one of the issues with the net neutrality, that it was kind of like this secret thing that people didn't understand. And they're thinking, well, why are the tech giants for this? It seems like they would want, but that's because it allows them to stay the monopoly. There could never be someone else, some new Netflix that will come up, or some new Yahoo or something that would be able to overtake the people who are already the giants now. That's why they're all for this.
It's all about a concentration of power.
And we can see how it's, like, as you're pointing out, how it's not a good thing.
All right, let's talk about some of this backfiring. So yesterday you had Matt Gaetz, a representative from Florida, agreeing with President Trump's proposal to end NFL tax breaks. I say absolutely, folks. If you actually look into this, they've had some changes over the years. First, Roger Goodell made some sort of changes to their tax breaks so that he could hide his own income. Once the NFL commissioner's income peaked $40 million, he decided to change the tax breaks the NFL was receiving so that he could keep that hidden. So now they have different tax breaks. But actually, if you look at it, all of the money that they bring in goes to their Play 60 Foundation, which is how they claim to get around all this. Play 60 gets less than 1% of the NFL's funding, yet the NFL receives billions of dollars in tax breaks. The president, I think, needs to enforce this immedately. I mean, why would the NFL be receiving tax breaks when we're already paying for their stadiums?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, to keep that industry propped up so that we can then get lectured to.
But here's where it's coming back to haunt them. Papa John's blames NFL for hurting pizza sales. Now, this is actually interesting. Papa John's is very, very much so in bed with the NFL in an advertising and marketing sense. They spend tons of advertising marketing dollars with the NFL, sponsorships through promotions, sponsorships with players. Now Papa John's is going to be pulling out of their millions of dollars advertising through the NFL. Leanne, what I was thinking when I saw this story, I was like, if Papa John's wants to make up the sales deficit that they've had because the NFL, all they have to do, of course, they probably won't do this, all they would have to do is Papa John, I don't know his name, John whatever, if that's his real name, would have to come up and say, I stand with President Trump and I will no longer be spending my money in the NFL. I guarantee you any Trump supporter that was planning on ordering pizza that night or the rest of the week is now going to call Papa John's when they probably wouldn't have before.
Exactly. You saw how many people rushed to support American when the whole MAGA push started. So yeah,
and the guy who stood for the national anthem in Pittsburgh had the #1 selling jersey.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. People are quick to support.
All right.
Well, did you see? Are we still laughing at liberals?
We're still laughing at liberals.
Okay, I know
we can cry a little bit too sometimes, but it's all right.
So the DNC, now that everyone's learning about this diversity visa and the lottery with the diversity, it makes us great. Well, not at the DNC because they are looking for some new data services manager, and they are saying white men need not apply. They don't want.
Yeah, I'm not going to apply to that one.
Cisgender straight white males.
So I'm out.
Don't apply for tech jobs. So they want diversity, but not you, Owen.
But this is directly from the DNC. They actually put this anti-white bigotry in their official letters.
This is DNC's data service manager, Madeline Leader, purportedly wrote in an email that the desire for diversity excludes cisgender straight white males. I personally would prefer that you not forward to cisgender straight white males, as they are already in the majority.
That's what I'm saying. These people don't even know what oh my gosh. They don't even know their own vocabulary. They don't even know what diversity means. They don't know what fascism means. They don't know what diversity means.
They're making up their own language, though, now. I mean, cisgender. Had you ever heard of that word before 2 years ago?
That's true. They did make it up. They made that up. You've got G. You've got the G gender. Don't forget about the G.
I forget who I was having a conversation with last night, but we were talking about how he was getting yelled at by these people because he misgendered a girl.
That's a crime in California.
It was his friend's girlfriend that then turned into a boy-ish.
I'm confused.
I know. And then he was like, "Hey, what's up?" And was calling her she and stuff. And they're like, "You can't call her that." I mean, it's like, so you can't say you can't call her that.
They're confused.
This is why they're mental. People are literally having breakdowns in this country because you're trying to fit into this insane version of reality.
But they don't even know what diversity means. If you ask these people, what does diversity mean? They would say, no whites. Say, hey, how? If you want to have diversity in the classroom, how would you have diversity in the classroom? All together, class? No whites.
No white males.
That's what the DNC is going to do. Straight white male need not apply. Well, I wasn't planning on applying for the DNC staff commission. After all, Seth Rich is a white man, and he ended up dead.
Saw what happened to him.
So probably a good idea if you're a white male with any integrity or patriotism left of you to just avoid the Democrat Party. Very sad what happened to Seth Rich in that deal. We got to go to break now, but we'll be right back on the other side. I think we got a little more time to laugh at liberals, and then we'll take a couple calls here. Don't go anywhere. This is the War Room. All right, we're going to give you an eye into the decaying mind of a liberal. Let's start right here. Professor blames mass shootings on hegemonic masculinity. A trio of University of California professors argue in a newly published academic article that hegemonic masculinity is responsible for mass shootings. Well, yeah, I mean, you saw the Austin Chronicle article. The new face of fear is a white male. These people hate white men. I don't know why.
Was it a white male that was writing it, or a white male editor that?
Oh, they're all whites.
Put it on the front page.
It's not. That's what I'm saying. There's only like a small handful of black people that even engage in this bigotry against white people. It's honestly mostly white people. It's really shocking. Again, it shows you how brainwashed they are. Professor declares that masculinity itself is the problem. A feminazi professor at the Occidental College recently argued that men must renounce their masculinity and denounce anyone who chooses to identify with it. Okay, share this video, Professor, because I am a proud masculinist till the day I die. Shove it. Any comments, Leanne?
I have been left speechless by your masculinity.
Do you have a problem with my toxic male masculinity? Do you have a problem with that?
I'm not going to get into personal jabs. Let's move on to...
What do you think about this? Miami art professor turns American flags into KKK hoods. This shows you what they think about America, folks. They literally think America represents the KKK, even though America created self-government and independence. America ended slavery. These people are so delusional. It hurts. It hurts. It's like if you cracked an egg and there was no yolk. That's what these people's brains are like. There's no yolk. There's nothing.
I bet she draws no ties.
Oh, by the way, she's
to
white.
the Democrats and the KKK. And
no, she doesn't know
That's
the
another
history.
part of the delusion is that they lie about that. And then the big switch. That's also a lie that we've all been told and been spoon-fed in school. The big switch was a lie, and this is what I'm saying. There, all these lies. It makes you crazy. This is why they're lunatics. And they're trying to force it now on the rest of the country, the rest of the world, and people are not having it.
So you had a campaign. I'm not going to give the exact details of this because I think the left is so stupid that they don't do any research, and I don't want to, give them, a realization of what's actually going on here. But it's okay to be white signs found on campus this morning. So specifically, this is a story from Tulane. And let's just say there's a little campaign going on right now, and people are putting signs up on college campuses that say it's okay to be white. And what they're discovering here is a bunch of videos, a bunch of people on Twitter and social media freaking out that these signs would even exist. How dare you say it's okay to be white? Don't you understand how racist that is?
Yeah, and it's on a white piece of paper, too. Like, that is really triggering. That's like double triggering.
I mean, don't you know that just by being white that you're a bad person?
Yeah,
I mean, so I don't understand. Unless you're, Hillary Clinton, a good liberal that murders people, with her wars overseas, people die from that, and she laughs at what happened in Libya. But she's okay. She gets away with it because she's a woman and a good liberal. It's okay to be white signs found on campus this morning. So this triggers all the people, and I'll just tell you, the whole point of this campaign was started by people on social media, and the whole point was, let's see if we can really show America that people just hate white people, that there really is a hatred of white people out there, and it's accepted. It's accepted. That's the thing. Look, if you are racist against black people, that's bad. Absolutely is bad. Nobody wants that. Nobody supports that. If you're racist against Muslims or something, that's bad. That's Islamophobia, all this stuff. Oh, that's bad. But if it's white people, then it's perfectly acceptable. It's perfectly normal to hate white people. Now, this is a shock video, and we're going to have to break this down, Liam, because it really shows you, again, the state of mind these people are in, if you even want to give it that much credence as a state of mind. Clip number 7, this is how triggered students are at an "it's okay to be white" flyer.
What it was like to see. So I was literally walking to the LBC. I was getting a bagel. I have a test today. I had a pretty rough night last night.
It's been so hard.
That sign.
Coming this morning was very heavy already, and then I was opening the door and I saw the sign, and as if that wasn't
Ace of base.
Another confirmation that I needed that I don't belong on this campus.
Pause it right there. Pause it right there. Pause it right there. Pause it right there.
It had nothing to do with her at all, or you know what I mean. That's not saying anything about. She's saying it makes me feel like I'm
what did she say?
Accepted.
It confirms that. In fact, roll it back 10 seconds. Let me get the exact quote. She's saying it's confirming her bias. So it doesn't even make sense. So she's admitting that she already has a bias against white people, and then this sign that was literally put there as propaganda to trigger this response, she admits is her confirmation that white people are bad. Play this again. Or she doesn't belong. That's it.
She doesn't belong.
I don't belong. Yeah, play it again.
Wasn't.
No, you know what? Pause it. No, actually, she's right. I just realized it. She is right. She doesn't belong in an institution of higher learning because it used to be you have to be smart, intelligence, have wit, have some philosophical things.
Have your ideas challenged.
She's got nothing. These are the type of nitwits that occupy higher education. They're all brainwashed morons.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to the snowflake here.
The confirmation that I needed that
she needed.
Belong on.
That's what I'm saying. Pause it again. I can't. I'm sorry.
Confirmation that she needed.
So
now she can continue being oppressed and whining and being a victim.
But she needed it. She didn't have it.
Right.
So she had no reason to hate white people. And then a sign that was put there just to prove how biased these people are. She says that's her confirmation. Go on with the video. I can't even deal with this.
It's just like I've felt it like for the past year that I have
A
been
troll
here,
flyer.
and no one
She felt it.
explicitly said it, and that was the first
Explicitly said nothing.
explicit thing
That
I
was
have
the
seen
most
that
explicit
really,
thing.
told me you shouldn't be here.
The sign said it's okay to be white.
I think our campus and our society tells us as people of color that it's not okay.
People of color. Like, can't we just be people?
Confirmation, or just see a piece of paper that says it's okay to be white. It's just.
What about if it said it's okay to be black?
It's not okay to be a person of color.
Or okay to be brown or whatever. Would they be like, yeah, it was so empowering.
Yeah.
I felt so empowered by that.
I've actually, let's just say, I'll just make that suggestion right now, because I'm sure that some of the people that kicked off that campaign listen to this show. That's your next move. Now put the flyers on campus that say it's okay to be black. Because it is, absolutely. You can say it's okay to be Latino. I mean, literally, it's okay to be anything. But if it's okay to be white, that triggers the brainwashed liberals. But Leanne, here's the thing about this.
No, it's not okay to be white. Don't you understand? That's what they're being told in school. Check your privilege.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. See, they're
like,
actually,
no, my paradigm. It's not okay to be white.
This is forcing them to admit how racist they are. But it's all in their mind. She's saying, oh, I don't belong. I don't belong. What do you mean you don't belong? You got accepted into the university. You have the right to free speech. You're even doing this video that goes viral. How do you say you don't belong? You are so brainwashed. It hurts. It hurts. Oh, I just want to break the shackles on their mind, but they can't be broken.
Not only that, but she can apply for the tech job at the DNC.
I can't even get hired as a tech job at the DNC, but that little snowflake could.
Yeah.
You don't see me complaining. I don't want to get Seth Riched. Oh, I'm sorry, Leanne. I'm just.
You're supposed to be laughing at liberals.
We are. You're right. See, but that's what I'm telling you. It's hard. I feel that girl is so victimized.
Right. This is what's happening. These kids are going into college for an education, and they're coming out victims, totally victims, and that's the new empowered.
It's like the girls that I spoke to at a anti-Trump protest that literally cried. I literally made them cry because the facts were that painful. The facts hurt their paradigm so much, they literally had to cry and run away. Ladies and gentlemen, InfoWars is aware that we are constantly berated with harmful chemicals to our natural chemistry and biology. So at InfoWarsStore.com, we release products that offer a solution to these problems. Take a look at this study. Prenatal pollution exposure linked to decreased telomere length. Telomeres is something you may have heard of recently. It's a new wave hitting the medical field right now, if you will, the supplement field. And it is what is at the end of your DNA that basically preserves or is responsible for the aging process. Now, this is a very important part of our human chemistry. And this recent study has found that prenatal environmental pollution exposure was linked to decreased telomere length measured in cord blood and placental cells. The second trimester in particular was demonstrated to be a vulnerable time during gestation. So you already know that we live in an environment that is just loaded with toxic chemicals. Now they're finding that that environment is actually affecting babies in the prenatal stage, specifically when it comes to the telomeres. So now you have babies prematurely aging in the prenatal stage because of all the toxins. So what does InfoWars do, folks? We find a solution and we offer you the best, most groundbreaking product to deal with protecting and keeping your telomeres healthy. And that is DNA Force at InfoWarsStore.com. And right now, DNA Force is 25% off, folks. 25% off. We don't see a new breaking study that tells you that your telomeres are under attack because of the toxic environment and then raise the price. No, we see the study that tells you your telomeres are under attack and we cut the price because we care about you and we want you to be fully healthy and aware to fight the new world order. So go to InfoWarsStore.com, take advantage of DNA Force, protect your telomeres. Maybe you're pregnant right now. Protect the telomeres of your unborn baby. And this is all possible with DNA Force. Look at the science behind DNA Force for yourself, and you will see why this product is groundbreaking for telomere protection. InfoWarsStore.com. All right, a couple things here, and we'll try to power through a couple of these phone calls. Maybe you didn't know about this, but there was also an attack in London when a cabbie hopped the curb and ran over multiple people in London. That broke today. So we'll keep tabs on that. You know what that probably means every time one of these cars mounts a curb and runs people over. You know what it means. Here's another example of leftist policies literally being responsible for death. ICE deports Guatemalan murder suspect living in Sanctuary City. You see why we can't have this, folks? What do you think happens when someone murders someone in, let's just say, Mexico, okay? And they want to escape justice. They want to escape the law. What do you think they do? They flee the country. And now, thanks to Democrats' sanctuary city laws, these murderers can come to sanctuary cities in the United States and just chill and get protection from lawmakers with a D behind their name. So thanks, Democrats, for literally keeping murderers in your sanctuary cities. You Democrats really make me sick. Any comments, Leanne, before we go to the phones?
Well, we see where their values lie. I'm looking
What's that, killing Americans?
Exactly. Or, you know, where their loyalty is with, it's not with America.
Death to America. Gotcha.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Death to America. I'm looking at this story that just came up on Daily Caller. Twitter buried DNC leak and Podesta emails hashtags in the last 2 months of the campaign. So everyone was starting to catch on that Twitter was burying these hashtags when they started to go viral. DNC leak, Podesta emails. So why aren't they being called out for helping to swing the election? You know what I mean?
Because they're good liberals.
Right. I mean, obviously, we
you
already
could
know
stab a guy in the neck and say, I'm a gay liberal, and get away with it.
Well,
just look at Kevin Spacey.
Exactly.
Oh, I may have molested a kid, but I'm gay.
But I am gay. He held on to that gay card for quite
until it came out. I think you're right about that.
Many decades.
I think that's a good point, actually.
Oh, he was waiting for that. What the get out of gay free?
Get out of being a pedophile free card.
Yeah, it's like
claim you're gay.
Yeah, and to my surprise, people were not having it. The gay community.
No, and rightfully so.
They were like, "Wow, sorry, you don't get to, claim that you're part of this crowd now in order to be protected." It's disgusting, especially when gay men in particular have had to really distance themselves from that whole thing that they're after little boys and stuff. So
yeah, the gay mafia
that was like, well,
is well known in Hollywood.
Thanks for undoing all those years of hard work that we've had to do to be able to adopt children and whatnot. So that was really stupid on his part.
That's my problem with all this stuff. I mean, we've got stacks of news on this Weinstein thing. That's the problem that I have with all this breaking news is that because of all of the perversion of Hollywood, which, okay, whatever. Okay.
Who's next? I mean, there's so much. Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is consenting adults, that's fine. But what they're doing with all of these perverts in Hollywood, I mean, who knows what'll come out next? Maybe they're all pansexuals, but they try to cast the dirty, disgusting culture of Hollywood onto America as if America actually lives like those sickos. No, we don't.
Well, and that's the thing is that America has this obsession with youth. And that's always been a thing. Women, of course, have always experienced that pressure to be youthful in Hollywood and whatever. But that's Hollywood's weird perversion and their weird obsession with young youth people, that they put that out there. And now we're starting to kind of see behind the curtain where it's all coming from. That they're obsessed with it. I mean, it's really sick. You're right. They're trying to push that perversion to the wider audience.
You've got all these people now accusing Hollywood actors, directors, producers, all this stuff. Obviously, Weinstein is the big name. There's a huge rap sheet of it. LAPD is actually now investigating Tyler Gresham, who was accused of rape and who works with children. All these non-disclosure agreements that these people in Hollywood have in their contracts for sexual assault, that's all being exposed. It's all being exposed. And I just call it as I see it. I'm not trying to be insensitive. Rose McGowan, who I've been very critical of, she comes out and slams the media focusing on Spacey being gay rather than perhaps being a pedophile. And then, of course, she gets charged with a drug offense. So you got to follow that and
just
wonder
like Corey
what that's
Feldman.
About. Exactly. But how about this, though? Weinstein tells pals in his rehab that he was basically a sacrificial lamb so that he could change the world. That would give credence to this is all about making
Harvey Weinstein, the sacrificial lamb, to attack toxic masculinity, which is what I think the overall
What a
agenda is.
terrible person, though. He thinks that he, I mean, that's like that's narcissism. Like he's going to change the world now and make the world a better place because now with all the sexual rampant, just seedy underbelly of Hollywood is finally
the whole
being
thing
upturned.
is, I think what he's saying is
he's a hero.
No, I think what he's saying is he was the sacrificial lamb to say toxic masculinity is a human problem and we have to end toxic masculinity. And so that's why he said he's going to change the world, because that's what the liberals want to do. You can't have, that's the thing, you cannot have a man around that's masculine and then bully him. So bullies have to end masculinity so that they can bully everyone else. The only one that stands up to a bully is a real man that has masculinity, okay? So that's why they have to end toxic masculinity. We've had Anthony call in. He's been holding for a while. Anthony in California. Go ahead.
Hello? Hey, Anthony.
Hi. Sorry if I'm a little nervous. It's my first time calling. I wanted to bring up a connection. Maybe it's something, I don't know, concerning serial killers from the 70s and 80s, and what I think it has to do now with what's going on in Hollywood. I'm just going by memory, but I believe in one of the final confessions from Ted Bundy in the weeks before he was executed, he talked about, I believe it was in Utah, how I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, there were other parties involved, there were other people, and because there was a mix-up in the timeline, some things didn't make sense.
Well, wasn't it, guys, look this up. I'm pretty sure that Tony Podesta has art that pays homage to
the way Ted Bundy
Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
Look that up. I'm pretty sure that Tony Podesta features art in his collection that pays homage to Ted Bundy. Maybe that ties in some of the loose ends that you're talking about.
Yeah, and with Bundy and with other people like Gacy, they were very well known in their areas, in their politics. Bundy was very connected with the Republican Party and then Washington State, and Gacy in the Democrat Party in Chicago area, and.
It's all coming down, Leanne. I mean, this is the beginning. This is truly the calm before the storm.
Hey, real quick, Owen, that
Rob Dew, go ahead.
Work that you're seeing right behind you is actually how Jeffrey Dahmer posed one of his victims and took
Yes,
photos.
that's right. Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, that's
Thank
right.
you.
That's why Rob Dew is our news director here, folks. We always want to get the facts. All right, thank you for the call, Anthony. Leanne will be here all week, folks, so don't weep, because you'll have more of Leanne McAdoo tomorrow. And as always, you stay classy, Info Warriors.